I think it's important to remember we were all someone when we were 20 years old that may look very unfamiliar to you at this time in your life, if you are indeed over 20.
Hello, and welcome to the Nutshell True Story Hour, a podcast for people who love stories. My name is Aaron Carnes, and I'm an author and one of the creators of In a Nutshell Storytelling, a monthly storytelling show in Sacramento, California. My co-creators are the world-class comedian Keith Lowell Jensen.
Hey everybody, this is Keith.
And Amy B., a storyteller and the person who pretty much runs this whole shindig.
It's Amy!
Every episode, we share with you one of our favorite stories told live at our show, followed by a conversation with the storyteller about how that story came to be. This week, we talked to the dynamic Kathleen Taylor, who told a story at our August 2025 show with the theme Bullies. This is a story that dates back to Kathleen's time in England in the early 80s, where, due to some insecurities and uncertainties about her own identity, she found herself the bully of her own story. She enlisted in the military, but didn't care much for the only other woman in her squad. She was everything Kathleen was not, including a person that knew how to have fun. After the story, we chatted with Kathleen in her beautiful Sacramento home, which was decorated with some of the most delightful artwork any of us had ever seen.
30 days at Lakenheath Air Force Base was a perfect duty if you like rain. Now, I have to admit the recruiter lied. Military life was not that exciting, so having the opportunity to go to England in January was a dream come true. Yeah, it was. So I bought a travel guide and read it from front to back. I took a lot of notes down. I created a to-do list, and then I went and shopped for some classy clothes to wear to London because I fully intended to take London by storm. Yeah. I first spotted her at the flight line orientation, a 8-hour soul-crushing event. Yeah, most of us sat slumped in our blue plastic chairs, but she was sitting bolt upright and furiously taking notes the entire time into a yellow legal pad. I suspected she was what I most despised in the military. Sue Ellen was an enthusiast. When I arrived that morning, I'd already looked up over the room and saw that Sue Ellen and I were the only two women on this assignment. And when you're in the Air Force, it means one thing. Sue Ellen was expected to become my new best buddy. The first night, we're in our shared quarters and standing side by side and unpacking our duffel bags. And that's when I took on my role of being an amateur anthropologist. Yeah, she harketh from the far woods. She said she didn't really understand city people. And she stood about 5'8". She was skinny as a rail, all elbows and knees jutting against her way overly starched green fatigues. Now, I know, as an anthropologist, I am a neutral observer. So I swear to you, I never judged her family or any of her possum talk. Yeah. Her hairstyle, however, that was a personal choice, and I decided that was her second most offensive quality. Now, Sue Ellen had waist-length hair. It was dark brown, and what I'd like you to think of is a mullet. But what I want you to have in your mind is a mullet with two distinct sets of bangs. One straight across the forehead, set really high, and the other just straddling her head 2-inch hanks, mid-ear level, that would just swing back and forth constantly. Oh yeah, Sue Ellen, I thought she could be my perfect foil, that I would be most in contrast to. Because it's 1980 and I have a specific type of temerity. A thin layer of not even a layer, a veneer of sophistication that I had constructed by reading, by social observation, and a number of years of cocaine use. Well, this construction all started when I was 13, and I had a terrible, really bad psoriasis outbreak. So bad I couldn't go to school for weeks. So what I did was every day I would go to the local public library and I would study the women's magazines. Yeah, it was perfect because it taught me about all of my flaws. Oh yeah, and it, of course, gave me advice on how to cover those flaws, and it promised me social mobility as my reward. Now, I already had the bad skin to cover, but I also came from an unconventional family, so I was reading Cosmopolitan magazine as if it was a prescription. Yeah. So all of this striving did sort of aim towards Posier, and by the time I'm 18 and my skin is cleared up and I'm getting the attention from men that basically just reinforces a persona. And now I'm 21, and I realize that my coolness is built on quicksand. And here in England, Sue Ellen was capable of taking me under. Our commanding officer was Captain Denny. Captain Denny was, in a hyphenated word, super fine. Yes, indeed. He was a snappy dresser. He has a really warm personality, and he was legendary for his sense of humor. I think everyone was infatuated with him. The first week that we're on base, he asked the entire squad, who wants to go to London for the weekend? And my arm goes up into the air almost as fast as Sue Ellen's. Saturday morning, it's really raining as the three of us jump on the train heading to London. I note when they're settling into their train seats side by side that both of them are wearing blue parkas, kind of heavy blue parkas, and the water was just beating up on top of their boots like they were waxed or something. Me, I was wearing a very chic golden trench coat, kind of shimmery. Yeah, and I had on some suede boots, very, very on trend for sure, and also very wet. I thought to myself, it's London, goddammit, I don't care. I'm going to look good no matter what. And so I just kind of sat back in the train seat and put my Farrah Fawcett waves that were sort of shellacked into place, back into place. And the train left the station. We get to London and we drop our bags in Paddington Square. We've already talked, the captain, Sue Ellen and I, about what's on the list, what do we want to see in London? And the captain wanted to go order a new suit. I wanted to be sure to walk across a London Bridge. And Sue Ellen is like, I don't know what's in London. I don't know. I'm up for anything. And I look at her and I go, that's right, sister. I'm not sure you're going to be able to keep up with the likes of me and Captain Denny. This conceit was quickly dashed, and all it took was my first ride on the London Underground. The subway cars are packed with scowling young men and towering neon-colored mohawks and Liberty spikes. They are zipped into the tightest of jeans with cod pieces or, stuffing. And when they're screaming at each other, you can see all the safety pins just rackety on their faces. I was terrified. Instinctively, I clutched my purse and wedged myself into a corner between two very grim-faced matrons. I spent quite a while scanning up and down, trying to see what happened to Captain Denny and Sue Ellen, and eventually I saw their blue-jacketed arms. They're hanging on to one of the straps in the center of the car, and they are completely surrounded by the flock of punk rockers. We're leaving the station, going up the escalator, and Sue Ellen is nothing short of ebullient. Oh, those boys, God, I can't believe those boys. What do you think they do all day? And Captain Denny laughs, and he goes, claps her on the back. He goes, oh, no, Sue Ellen, we'll have to go find out, huh? And I'm thinking, what? Go find out? And so I pull out, I have to kind of search for my to-do list, and by the time I catch up to them at the corner, he's laughing so hard that his words are coming out in spurts. And so, Sue Ellen, oh, God, you're right. What people do at night is way more interesting than what they do during the day. And all I can think of was, oh, shit. But we do go to the tower. We go to see the guard, and we go to the Harrods. So that was lovely. And many soggy hours later, we're at a fish and chip stand. It's now night, and I'm trying to get a grease stain out of the arm of my beautiful trench coat. And the captain turns to Sue Ellen and says, Sue Ellen, which was your favorite of the fabrics that we looked at? And Sue Ellen kind of gets all mock-faced and serious, and she goes, well, Captain, I come from the Glen Plaid people. And he just busts out laughing, and he says, oh, I love her, Kathleen, isn't she a hoot? And I'm thinking, yeah, she's a hoot, all right, she's a damn hee-haw, yeah, I'm thinking that. And the captain furrows his brow, and he leans right into me, and he says, Taylor, if you quit working so hard at being someone, you'd start having a lot more fun. My heart sank. The blush was immediate and overwhelming. I couldn't even stammer out a response. I kind of wanted to disappear. The captain hails a cab. And when we get out of the cab, a long alley, the captain says, I have a surprise for you, ladies. Tonight we're going to punk. You better hang on to your hats. And I'm like, what? And Sue Ellen screams, yeah. And she throws her hands in the air and pulls her beanie down really hard. He's laughing, and they're easily getting into the door. They're just waved right in. But the bouncer stops me with his palm out. I have to pay. And I had to keep paying until it was deemed enough. So I get eventually pushed into the dim bar. Now, the light is very low. It takes a few moments for my eyes to be able to acclimate to how dim it is. And I see Sue Ellen, and she's walking towards me with her arm outstretched. She's got a beer in it for me. I grab it, and I'm saying thank you, but she's already turned around, and she has gone straight into the throng of gyrating bodies. On the stage, the singer is screaming profanities as he crotch slithers up and down the microphone stand. The guitar distortion is immediately overwhelming, and I become disoriented. I look for a place to put my beer glass down, and the beat changes, and I am roughly shoved forward, pitching my beer directly onto the woman in front of me, now rendering her white t-shirt absolutely transparent, save for the word scrawled across it, destroy. She raises her eyes and looks at me, puts her hand on her shirt as if to test this new reality, and then crosses both of her arms across her chest, rears back, and body slams me with a full-on die bitch force. I go stumbling backwards into the crowd. The glass flies out of my hand, and now it is on. The club absolutely explodes with body slamming as punks hurl themselves against each other, some with their arms crossed across their chest, some with them rigidly at the sides. They're like deranged pogo sticks, and they're in the air and they are crashing down, including on me. And all I can think is, save your face. So I'm trying to do this, and it leaves my purse vulnerable. It's worn crossbody, and someone grabs the thick leather strap and, using it as a slingshot, now propels my off-balance body into an arc, and I am flailing. My hands are as useless as an infant's, and as I go over and over, and I am being slam-tossed all over what I think is a dance floor. I don't know. Luckily, I managed to push my way out of the bar. And I go into the alley, and I set up sentry across the alley for my two comrades. I am leaning against the wet stone wall, and I have to really, I've got to check out my condition, right? So I'm doing like a little inventory. Okay. Big rip on my shoulder on my raincoat. Okay. Mascara completely running down your face. Check. Okay. Farrah Fawcett waves now deconstructed and plastered to your head with thick globs of hair gel. Check, check, check. And my sock is migrated to the toe of my boot. Okay. I'm trying to close my coat, and I realize, of course, there's no more buttons there. And a couple lurches out of the bar and lands in their passion right next to me on the wall. Their lips are locked, and he is grinding against her. And I'm thinking, my God, they're going to have sex mere inches away from me. And he is pawing at her, and he must have noticed that I looked at him kind of a side-eye look, because he kind of brings his head back, lifts her shirt up, pawing at her nude breast, and starts saying something to me. I can see his lips moving. He's snarling, he's glaring, and he's pawing at her breast. I'm like, what? So I lean over, like, what? And that's when I could clearly see how his bottom lip was caught by his top of his teeth as he said, bellowed really, "You feckin' phony." My face turned to stone. "Fuck you, punk kid." And I turned to go back into the club, and every bit of my body is screaming, "Oh, hell no! Oh, hell no!" And I stop. It would take years for me to fully unpack the advice that Captain Denny gave me in the fish shack that day. The idea of the ease of authenticity. But that night, in that alley, in front of that club, I knew I sure as hell wasn't going to work that hard. I just stood there, the rain coming down, waiting for Captain Denny and Sue Ellen, my assigned best buddy. And I let go of that London to-do list. And oh, hell yeah, I started having a whole lot more fun. Thank you.
I remember we talked a little bit about this story before you performed it, and you were concerned about the narrator, the protagonist, about maybe whether or not they were a bully and how people were going to feel about that. How do you feel now?
Well, I have to admit that I was way worse in my mind to Sue Ellen than I probably was actually. And whether she caught on, and I don't know if someone has to actually perceive of you as a bully for you to be a bully. It was my interior bully, Amy.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you communicated. I feel like you were kind of the unlikable protagonist, and also I feel like there was a little bit of an unreliable narrator in there. I wonder if you feel that way at all. Like, people probably weren't catching on at first that you were kind of commenting on yourself and your own behavior. You know. Do you feel like maybe there was a little bit of that device in there?
Of being unreliable?
Kind of an unreliable narrator because you're really capturing.
Oh, yeah. Well, because we all are,
yeah.
You mean?
Yes.
Yeah. I firmly put myself into the realm of we are all unreliable narrators. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. Certainly because, I mean, to be honest with you, I first, this piece was written for a book, and as a piece that's going into a book. And then I kind of repackaged it to make it this, if you will, story. Mm-hmm. So it has that sort of literary bird's eye view. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do you prepare something that's written for the stage? Like, what is the biggest difference between writing something for the page and then getting it ready to say into a microphone?
Oh, by far the most challenging thing is giving up all that cute literary tropes that I, as a writer, treasure. Like, oh, that clever little comma is a thing, right? And so what I've done for pieces that are written for other purposes is, and all my work is written for other purposes. And so I just snag pieces out of it, is to try to reimagine it radically different, change the voice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I totally feel you on that. I feel it's very similar for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it does mean you have to lean more into who you were.
Yeah.
With the written, and maybe it's just because I'm not a professional writer, but I mean, science writing is not the same as doing this type of writing. But one of the things is, for me, the literary voice always has a greater separation than the storyteller's voice. If I'm successful, it has a wider berth, if you will. And if you're going to bring people into the story, successfully or not, and I've done it plenty unsuccessfully, you have to get them to buy into a context and a moment, and you need to do that right off the bat, or they're just not going to take the ride with you.
I totally agree. Like, it's your perception or that person's perception. They need to be right there with you. It needs to be immediate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think you can do that in the written word, but you have a wider room. You have some maneuverability that maybe is not quite there the same way.
Yeah, you don't have time. Yeah. I mean, you can take the time, but no one's going to appreciate it.
No.
They're going to say, like, get to the point. I mean, it's the story that feels like someone is telling you an essay and not telling you a story.
Exactly.
And it's a tricky business. And yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you sounded more literary than most of our writers, but you also sound
storytellers.
Yes, than our storytellers. But you also sound like it sounds natural. It sounds like that's how you speak.
Yeah, it's true. I do.
So I think that it works. Like, I think some storytellers talk that way on stage, and it doesn't work because it doesn't come off like that's how they actually speak.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've heard those assertions that I have a tendency to speak less casually.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
I am struck by the way you deliver. And I think of it as less casual. The first time I heard you, I said it sounded like we were going to hear a noir, true crime story or something.
Oh God, thank you for saying that.
But I really like it, and I think it's striking. I think it's different than the approach that most storytellers take. I'm wondering how much that was intentional, how much you're even aware of doing that, because I actually don't feel like you deliver the same way that you speak. I mean, I'm talking to you at the grocery store, you're like goofy and bouncy and fun, and then you get up there.
And that on stage too, sort of. You're right. Okay, thank you. So you do hit an important point here. One of the things that I've noticed over a lot of years, and first off, I'm really used to speaking in front of large groups. I mean, I've done it for over 30 years.
Why is that?
Because I taught, and I would do certain types of work with 1,000 people. Well, typically 500 people in an audience, and extemporaneous for an hour to 2 hours. Completely natural to me to do that, but stressful. So I kind of know how to have kind of your internal editor working while you talk. Some people say that's what true introverts do. That they think about what they're going to say, and so I'm not going to say that that's actually accurate, but I have heard that. So part of it is I'm just trained.
Yeah.
I think for me, and this is something that has showed up a lot in my experiences at the Moth. I've been on the Moth stage over 20 times, and one of the things is that I tend, my best stories, I get the lowest scores from the judges because, and somebody said to me, well, you've got to get them to really identify with you, and I'm going, I'm not sure 17-year-olds need to identify with me.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, seriously. Right. And it's, and sometimes it's okay to just put something out because it's real. And not do it because you're looking for a specific audience response. And that's the danger in storytelling, in my opinion.
What is it?
The idea of finding a formula that works really well and then only doing the formula.
Right.
God, that's the last thing I want to do.
Oh, yeah. Fall in love with process. Then you just keep doing the same thing. And,
right.
Yeah.
Right. We all know those bands. Don't say it.
Like who?
Like the Pogues?
The Pogues,
like the
maybe?
Pogues, maybe. Yeah. But I'm not going to go into that.
I can't believe you guys are the ones that brought it up, but that we are now officially only talking about the Pogues for the rest of this.
You volley that to me?
Do you mean the band that started out with like folk Irish with punk attitude and then started experimenting with Spanish music and then Arabian music and then
it's very
went
continental.
into like new wave? And how dare you? How both of you? Shame. For shame.
See, we're not trying to get you to like us with our statements. It was dangerous, and it felt really great to say it out loud.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
It was right there. It was
was
vibrating.
So,
It's the same.
if I could get your phone number before I leave, I would like to include you on my daily texting of Pogues videos and articles.
Sure, I got a number
so that
for
we
you.
can continue this conversation. For the listeners at home, off air, I have been threatening all day to turn this into a Pogues podcast. So, they one-upped me. They stepped out ahead of me, and
then we squashed it.
And then squished it like a bug.
Well, it happens.
No, I think it's interesting that when we're talking about like this formula develops, and I feel like certain venues. And I don't mean this as a slam on the Moth at all, but I think the Moth has its formula and the Moth has its kind of what they reward and what they like. And then I like that as this storytelling scene is growing and blowing up, different venues have a different flavor and different different formulas, or maybe some of them are newer and haven't found a formula yet. And I think it's like, I watched a similar thing happen in stand-up, where people don't like to admit that there are genres, but there are, and there are different flavors, and different clubs are going to, cater to different audiences. And I think it's a good thing, and I love it. But I like hearing that you'll go in there and do something that their judges are like, and that's your favorite stuff. And you're like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. That's great.
Yeah, it is. I have to say, once you've won a couple times at a Moth Story Slam, it's kind of seductive. And the first time I won a Story Slam, I was so freaking surprised. Though I know I hammered it out. I mean, I knew it was a great story, but I've done other great stories. But it's just, it's the time. It's who's the judge. I mean, there's so many factors at play. There's a lot of fickleness, but typically, a strong story wins, and this was a really strong story, and I was thrilled. And then I thought, well, that was it. Okay, great. I checked that one off. I'm going to go to the Grand Slam. I was so excited, but I didn't think I was ever going to do it again. So I just keep doing my non-formula, right? Mm-hmm. And then when I won 6 months later again, and then now I'm like drunk on it. Okay, I'm like, oh my God, this is how I can win. I thought, listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. I was so surprised at my own, should I say, I was absolutely just like chomping at it, right? Like, oh my God, I can do this every year. Not thinking, that's not what you do. It's not what you do. But I get why it's so seductive.
Right.
And so it's, we all know how that works. And so, okay, so I have to throw this out there. So one of the things, one of the people I studied under when I was in my higher education years as a student was a fella who wrote a seminal book about what's greatness and what makes genius. And I read that book, and it changed my entire perspective on how to succeed in life in terms of trying to maximize creativity, because he's really the man writing about creativity. And his book was this huge hit for a psychology book. And one of the things, and my takeaways from that is, what you have to do is do it a lot. If you love it, do it a lot, write a lot, do a lot of stories. And absolutely be careful of having too many models for what to do. So one of the things that I really love in some of the creativity research is looking at how people who are able to really produce a lot of, I'm sorry, but I'm going to call it this, creative products, okay?
All right.
Of sorts, right? Outcomes, right? They tend to, if they're writers and they are fine artists, they tend to only go to college for a couple years. It maximizes the creativity likelihood. And what that means is that you have to be careful of those grad degrees, those MFAs. You have to be careful of too much training because you're having too much modeling.
Right.
And so it becomes a limitation. And that was really true in a lot of things, not for science, though. And but I thought that was, for me, it's always been the idea of, I never took a writing class ever, but it was this idea of do as many kinds of things as you can, be impassioned about what you do, but most importantly, right, don't look too closely at the models. Yeah, because you'll just, and so that with the Moth, and I love the Moth. I love everything about the Moth. But if you look at that as the only model, that is inherently going to be limiting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, we're talking about well-worn ruts too. That's another, if you're like going through the system, you're learning the system, and it's very well tread.
Absolutely.
Which has pluses.
Absolutely. And there's no wrong there. It's just, how do we maximize, just as creators, and you all are creators, how do we maximize the likelihood of some surprise, right? How do we maximize
uncertainty?
That? Yeah, absolutely. Which means, for creativity, it's not just about producing a lot, but it's also being, willing to, kill your darlings, right?
Right.
Yeah, let go a lot.
Yeah,
so.
I really think that back to process. I know this is a thing I just say a lot, but I really feel like, for instance, like you make your book, you love your book, you are excellent, everybody loves your book, you're successful. That's exactly when you need to walk away from writing. You want to stop anytime you get really good at something. That's what I think. Like that's the way to keep it, to stop
or change it up.
Yeah, you want to stay away from that rut. You want to stay away from the well tread. That's, I know. You mean everybody's looking at me like,
oh yeah, I have thoughts. yeah. So can you tell us more what you mean by that? Yeah. By having, because a lot of writers only do that one book well and with originality, right? A lot of bands do that, right?
And that's great. They should.
And we're not naming any names for the bands.
No, we're totally not doing that. No, I would never.
We would
never
dare.
Any Irish band for sure.
The Pogues have 3 masterpieces. Like 3 in a row. Boom, boom, boom. Fantastic.
Do you remember being like in your early 20s and just hating it when your favorite band like jumps genres?
Yeah.
And you'd be like Radiohead?
Yeah. And you'd be like, sellouts, they suck. And then, but like as I get older, I feel like that's exactly what you should do.
Yeah.
You should always be, anytime you perfect your process, because I think it has to do with process, not really outcome. It has to because you're like, it's kind of superstitious. You're like, I have to have this glass of water. That's how I write a good book. It's like, that's what you should be suspicious of, process. Yeah. And that's where you need to be always open and looking and I don't know. That's just a theory because I've never been successul at anything.
Oh, look at you sitting at this table right now. Look at you. Yeah, you're successful. So
it's a challenge for those of us that as soon as we do something, it's a masterpiece. It's like you have no choice. I mean, and then what? I can't do it again.
No, you're an exception.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I got a few questions about the story itself.
Please.
Okay.
Aaron keeps us on track.
Is that a pun?
It wasn't meant to be.
It is now. Thank you.
So what happened to Captain Denny and Sue Ellen?
You mean that night?
Just in
general?
Did they get together?
Yeah,
no, they're just friends. Captain Denny was happily married.
No, I mean, what do you know about Captain Denny?
What happened? What happened next?
Well,
actually, I don't know.
You don't know? That was.
Well, I mean, no. I mean, we had that assignment together. We were there during that time. But what happened next? I don't know. It was a very different time. I mean, you'd have to write like letters on really thin paper, airmail paper.
What happened to punk rock? Did you and punk rock come to appreciate one another later, or? Well,
let's put it this way. When women started getting on stage, I appreciated it a lot more.
Nice.
Just saying.
Was that specs, baby?
Was that your first encounter with punk, or did you already know what that was before you?
That was my first literal encounter. I mean, sure, I had read about it, but it was not. I had not been to a club, and this was a very grungy club. I mean, it was a slam club, so I had not been to anything remotely like that.
You don't know who was on stage.
It was not who you're hoping I'll say.
There's a list, several. No, but what do you know who it was?
I don't. Okay. It really was. I mean, it was just a grungy. Yeah. Sorry, there's no really great story there. And something which I did not appreciate, which make the story better. But I don't write fiction. I know, but I don't write fiction. Not really.
We all do.
Mostly true.
Just auto fiction.
Do you remember any other details about that night or that punk scene?
About that punk scene?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was if you wanted to say the stereotype of a super small club jammed with people with sort of a raised platform. I don't even know where those gigantic speakers were, because it was, speakers were large back in 1980. They were humongous. And I think my biggest surprise that there was a bouncer, because it wasn't like a red rope club, It wasn't like that at all. But there was a bouncer, so apparently it was a place that was ready for trouble.
How long were you in the club? Was it just brief, or did you?
Well, enough to get really, basically beat up. But it was, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, it just never even occurred to me to wear a watch back then.
One of the things I really love about it is that we and especially I think Aaron and myself, Amy, I'm not sure, we romanticize that era a lot. And for you to then go in as an outsider and they just sound like, a lot of men behaving badly and people just kind of like trying to be cool and being kind of ridiculous. And I love that outsider perspective on something that we've now built up to almost legend in our minds of that era.
Of that, the purity of it all.
Yes.
And so it was definitely sort of the, there was an anarchy edge to it for sure. I mean, it was really clear, but it was heavily dominated by men for sure.
Right.
For sure. And so I'm coming from it, not just from an outsider, but as someone who had, done things like won disco contests.
Nice.
Okay. Right. So I'm kind of really, really the antithesis of what that club was.
Yeah.
At least I was trying to be the antithesis of that. Because if I wanted grungy people behaving poorly, I just have to look at my childhood. So I just didn't need to continue that.
Yeah, because your character sounded you sounded kind of hoity-toity and
Oh,
above it, but
I'm
also there was like a naivety
yeah.
and like an innocence there also. It was kind of a strange note you were striking.
Yeah, well, because that's a lot of us, that's what we're like at that age, right?
Uh-huh.
We're in that, and since I taught students that age for almost 30 years, I'd look at them with such love for this moment you are when you're 20, 21, 22, when you think you are these things. And I can stand there as someone who was, 45 years older than you and just like, I love that you love that. And I love that you're going to like really think about that differently in 20 years. I love it so much.
Yeah.
I think it's a glorious thing about that age is that you really think you're it. Like, I got this, right? And you are so freaking young, right? You're so freaking young. And I felt like I had quite a life prior to that, before I went into the military, that got me to the military. It's a completely different story. So I'm not going to sidetrack, but I had the illusion that I had some sort of like wisdom, sophistication, but it was veneer.
Mm-hmm.
It was veneer, but it had worked for me. And sometimes you just have that moment in life where you're kind of getting away with a lot, when you really shouldn't be. When somebody say, God, you're full of crap, look at you. But instead, you're getting the pass because of your good jokes, your good looks, your good writing, whatever. You're getting that pass. And it's kind of glorious, but, it's bound to wear out, if that makes sense.
For most people. I don't think it does for everybody.
At age 20, from age 20, 21, maybe not.
Yeah, or maybe less. Some people maybe never fully have to like gain awareness.
No, nobody has to, Amy.
You're right.
Nobody has to. It is optional. It's an evolution, though. I don't know anybody who's in their 60s that does not look back at their 20s and going and thought that was a set of perfect decisions.
So go to see like Kiss is the first example that comes to mind, but go see like a Kiss cover band. Mm-hmm. At a cheap, bar, like beat up venue, and look at the 60-year-olds there.
Oh God! And
they're just still in that moment. They're just like they're wearing the same T-shirts that they wore.
They live with their moms.
They live in the same place.
I don't have any Kleenex. Hey,
and they're just sitting at the bar, still sure that they are cool as shit.
Yeah, there are people. You're right. There are people that chase that.
I love those guys.
You love those guys,
and men get to hold on to that a little longer, I think.
What, because we just become slattery?
A lot of women don't have a choice.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's true. It's true. I love that. And part of me is like, how hard do we chase the ghost?
Yeah.
It is. How hard do we chase the ghost? And maybe this is the glorious, fantastic, and it's completely real for you and right on. But a lot of folks chase a ghost.
See,
Right.
that goes back to process. I'm telling you.
Ghost?
That's another example of that they need to let go.
They do not need to let go.
Okay, I'm sorry. Amy says they do.
Now, I'm not going to be a psychologist on this. I'm not licensed
I'll
in
do
this
it. I'm
state.
not
Yeah.
licensed.
Yeah.
I'd just like to point out that when she said good jokes, she looked at Keith, and then she said good looks, she looked at me.
I did. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're
And
getting
good
it in the
writing was
eye.
Amy.
And then she said, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
We're
Kathleen
fighting.
was looking at me the whole time.
I thought, I didn't see the same thing as you. I saw
did.
good looking, good, funny, and writing all
All
to
Asian.
me.
her right to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But really, I was talking about myself.
All along.
Boom.
It
Ouch.
was the reflection in my
Oh,
glasses,
God.
wasn't it?
It was the shine in Amy's eyes. Well, if you're going to volley another one.
So your story, I'm really struck with the level of which you're conveying yourself at that age of being concerned with how other people see you, which is, like you're saying before, that is part of that age. But I also feel like you're kind of leaning into it more. Maybe like there's something particular about you and your experience at that point that made you particularly sensitive to that.
Well, I mean, and honestly, when being 13 years old and having a skin condition so bad that you're not allowed to go to school, right? I mean, it was, I'll never forget walking into to the doctors. And at this time, I'm about 15 or so. And psoriasis, when you have that genetic kind, is really can be a real drag. And it can be pretty hellish, frankly. And so we're talking like 70% of my body. And it's painful. So I walk into the doctor's office, and he kind of like has probably taken some sort of, sensitivity class or something recently. And the dermatologist says, "So, Kathleen, I'll bet this condition has pretty much ruined your hopes for a social life."
Wow.
And you know what I thought to myself? God, no. I mean, it was like so shocking. But it was this weird double thing. He literally said, basically, God, you're a mess, right? This must be horrible. Your life is terrible. And I was thinking, no, my life is not terrible. But it did this kind of thing. And I think Peter Berger says this really well. He's the art historian. And he talked a lot about ways of seeing. And he said one of the things about being a woman in our culture is that, and he wrote this in the 60s, is that women are trained to see themselves through the eyes of men, right? And so it's always this sort of bizarre, way in which we see ourselves. And I can say that I absolutely fell to that at that time, even though I didn't have a father, et cetera. But I completely understood from everything that was being told to me culturally that my value was going to be through how men see me and in which ways in which men are going to reward me. And so I was still in that. For women, it's a lifelong thing to get rid of seeing themselves through the eyes of a man. In other words, and some people go, "No, I never did that." I'm like, great, okay. But I would suggest that it's a scrutiny. It's a scrutiny.
And the way you dealt with it at that point was that you saw yourself as sophisticated and intelligent and sort of these things. And that's kind of how you dealt with it. And then that was challenged by this experience in England.
Well, kind of. I had some pretty wild things happen when I was 18 or so that kind of gave me the idea that there's this tremendous transactional power that young women have, and it's really powerful. And I mean, I was smart enough, but what happened there is that I thought that's what mattered. Mm-hmm. So that was just one of those moments, one of those just, it's not just one thing, but it's just one of those moments that says, wait a minute, how are you assessing this? How are you assessing this? And so that was just one of those moments. And that's why I wrote the piece. It's because it's so different than who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like literally what I became an expert in is exactly the opposite of that. Right. From what I taught for a living. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Which is what?
I taught women's studies and I'm a psychologist.
Oh.
Yeah. Non-clinical. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the most striking part of the story for me was you outside this club and you're sitting next to two feral punks,
Oh God, it was something.
basically ramping up to have sex or whatever. And you're called phony by them while this is happening.
It was perfect. I know. To this day, I still can't believe how great that moment was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, wow, I can't even fool them. As deconstructed as I was. Yeah, that's why this moment sticks with me.
Yeah.
Most of us don't get a literal punchy moment like that. I literally had that moment. And when I wrote the piece and I sent it to, I have a twin sister, and when I sent it to my twin sister and I said, "Sis, do you remember this?" She goes, "Oh my God, you told me all about that." And I go, I thought I did. This is real. It really did happen. But
I love that. I love that when you have a moment in your life that's so perfect, like almost literary perfect, you have to like confirm that really happened, right?
Well, I have to if I want, because it's going to be published. Yeah. I have to if I'm going to call it, an auto memoir, right?
No, you don't. There's no witness out there. You're not. It's a perfect crime. It's a perfect victimless crime.
A perfect victimless crime. Yeah. Okay.
Was this experience sort of your first run-in with the concept of authenticity and the value of authenticity?
No. But it was one that literally it landed.
It was so overt.
It was just hilariously
No one
large.
more authentic than those two punks, right?
No one more authentic than Sue Ellen.
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
That was for me that was the perfection. She was the perfection. She was.
Can you explain that more?
She was unabashedly herself. She did not care what you thought of her hair. She literally was a person fully engaged in the moment and in life.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the version that I would have chosen, but she showed me in those moments how this is the real. This is the real. She goes in that punk. She's embraced. The captain prefers her company to mine. All right. I mean, there's like all these layers. And so I think and that for me, she really was my perfect foil.
It's so interesting to sit down and do this where we're analyzing and kind of explaining and looking at what's behind all these things. Do you have to, one of the things I really like about the version of this on stage is that you don't explain. And I'm wondering, do you have to resist that? Is there ever this urge to kind of talk more about, because I've seen storytellers do it where they tell you what they learned from it. They tell you what it meant. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Do you have to resist that?
No, I don't resist it. I want to respect the audience that they can figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to give it all away. Absolutely.
But I think what you actually do say what you learned, but it's not at the end. It's when you say what Captain Denny said to you.
Well, I don't say what I learned because I begin to unpack it.
Yeah. But it's not at the end, and I think that's what kind of gives it some potency, because you sit with it while you're saying it, and then I feel like you kind of ask people to kind of look back over there without directly saying that was your lesson.
Do you remember that moment when?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. It's, I hate the moral of the story.
Right.
It's like, it's my pet peeve in writing or storytelling, the moral of the story. And, because I think there's just so much ambiguity for all of us ultimately.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That moral, I'm going to solidify the moral to being this one thing at this one time, that makes it sort of a dead piece of, of experience, right? And this is the moral. I'm just like, oh my God, the moral, right? And it just kind of, for me, it kind of sucks the life out of it.
Yeah.
But that's just a personal bias.
What
Oh,
if that?
we share that.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Are you biased too?
Yeah.
But what
you.
if your statement of that moral is really funny?
Those are
Yeah.
the only ones I like. When somebody
And I like to
says,
say what I didn't learn. I do that a lot.
Here's
Yeah.
what I didn't learn. Yeah. Well, I suppose, there are no fast rules.
Yeah.
There are no fast rules. Yeah. And I don't think so. But I just know my preference.
Right.
And particularly when you hear the storyteller starting to gear up to tell you the moral, I can feel my body go, please don't do it. Don't do it. Resist. and it's not because I'm not enjoying them as a person or their story. It's just that I love to have a little more elasticity at the end, even though you can land the ending.
And I feel like at that point you stopped telling us a story. You told us a story, and now you're doing a TED Talk about your story.
You're reflecting.
Yeah. Like you finished the story, and now you're going to teach us something.
But that could really be just not knowing how to end the story.
Yeah.
They're just at level one of it. And
it's so hard to just stop when you're done.
Mm-hmm.
I think for new storytellers, that's what the hardest part is. Just, you're finished. You told the story. It was fucking great. Shut up.
Well, landing a story is super hard.
Yeah.
Landing a story. And I think a lot of folks that I know of who have struggled with this, they kind of have their beginning and they know how it's going to end. I mean, before they've actually done the middle. I'm like, how do you know it's going to go there?
Right.
How can you possibly know that? And then you're going to tell your story to get you there when it could be a lot more interesting to not know where it's going.
This is our most all over the place interview ever. But let
Really?
me jump back to the beginning and ask you.
Whoa.
I introduce you. You walk on stage kind of loose and fun with the music that we have.
Yeah, I'm listening.
You stand there, and then you probably take longer before the first word comes out of your mouth than any storyteller we've ever featured.
I'm so proud of that.
It is. It's great.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What's going on during that pause?
I do that. I do that on any stage I'm on. And that is, I have to feel what the energy is. I have to really sink into the energy. I'm not starting with a memorized line and then I'm going to try to find the energy. I want to try to find the energy before I start speaking. And I know some people go, oh, Kathleen, you always do that thing where you don't say anything. You look to the side and you take 2 breaths. And it feels like 5 to us. And I'm like, no. I go, but I have to be grounded to do it. That's just how I work. I really is how I work.
There is a confidence to it that says that you're okay with making us wait.
Totally.
It's very
yeah.
I mean that as a compliment. It says, oh, she knows what she's doing.
I learned that from Sue Ellen.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I didn't.
God bless you, Sue Ellen, wherever you are.
Thank you for listening to the Nutshell True Story Hour. Please follow us on our Substack, which you can find by going to inanutshellstorytelling.com. Check out our live show, In a Nutshell, at the Sophia Theater in downtown Sacramento. Our next show is on Friday, May 15th. The theme is cults, crackpots, and swindlers. That's going to be a good one. You should also come check out our smaller show, Wildcard, where you can put your name in the knot hat and tell everybody a story. It's every third Wednesday of the month at Teneral Winery in Midtown Sacramento. All that info and more is on our Substack, inanutshellstorytelling.com. If you would like to support us, there are a few ways. You can become a paid Substack subscriber, or you can also sponsor our show program. Whatever you decide to do, it's all appreciated, and it'll help us keep live storytelling alive in Sacramento. Alrighty, see you again in 2 weeks.